Dajahao, my name is Garrick, and welcome back to Taiwan, Laowai. So we are once again back in the city of Taipei. It's approximately 5:45 right now. As a matter of fact, we are super close to Taipei 101. You can see it in the distance over there. Hello! But we are not visiting Taipei 101 tonight. That we will have to save for another video. No, today we are continuing our Mission Michelin, which is our journey to eat at as many Michelin-recommended restaurants in Taipei as we can. And oh boy, do we have a treat for you tonight. But first, a slightly clearer look of Taipei 101 as we cross the boulevard. It's a very handy landmark, as I'm sure you can imagine. So, up until now, we have exclusively been eating at the Michelin BIP recommended places. It's essentially the Michelin honorable mention, you know, good food, maybe not exceptional, but definitely delicious and at an affordable price. And those have all been very good. I have greatly enjoyed my feasts at all of those places. But tonight, it's time to take it to the next level. Tonight, at long last, we are eating at our first ever Michelin Star restaurant. In case you need a reminder, Michelin awards from 1 to 3 stars for the absolute best restaurants across the world. 1 star is super exceptional cuisine, 2 stars is incredibly exceptional, like the bar has been raised so much more, and the elusive 3-star Michelin restaurant is one of the best meals you will have in your life. A god among men in the restaurant world, or so I've been told. I think this is actually my first time ever eating at a restaurant with a Michelin star. I don't think I even ate at any places like that back when I lived in America. So this is very exciting for me. I'm like, woo! So tonight we are paying a visit to the 1-star Michelin restaurant, Nomura Sushi. It is a sushi restaurant right sort of smack dab in the middle of Taipei's central Da'an district. The chef Nomura himself, I believe, is originally from Japan, but he's lived in Taipei for years. All the reviews I read speak very highly about the quality of food and the service, which is to be expected for a Michelin restaurant. So I am very excited. Nomura Sushi is open for lunch and dinner. It has different services depending on what time you make your reservation. Now, the only option is the omakase, the chef's tasting menu. But there are different levels and different price ranges depending on when you go and what you want. I believe your cheapest option would be the cheapest lunch set, which would be 4,000 NTD, which is this much in US dollars, so even that is pretty pricey. But for dinner, there are 2 menu options, the sushi set menu and the sushi and sashimi set menu. We are just going to have the sushi set menu because sashimi is not my favorite thing in the world. I prefer it with the rice and, you know, all the accoutrements that come with sushi. And how much will the dinner sushi set menu set me back at Nomura Sushi? 8,000 NTD, which is, you know, this much in US dollars, so fairly significant. I believe if you want to spring for the sushi and sashimi menu, it is going to ring you up 10,000 NTD, which is even more absurd. But anyway, just taking a quick break from price nonsense, because I want to give you at least some Taipei scenery as we walk to our place. I think this is like the first brick building I've seen in Taipei. That's pretty cool. Anyways, as you can tell, this is not a place you're going to want to spend every lunch and every dinner at. Unless you're like Bill Gates or something. You can make reservations online through the Inline app. I believe when you make your reservation, you have to put down a 2,000 NTD deposit. So that sort of locks you in for the day and time that you sign up for. It's obviously a fat stack of cash whatever time you choose to come, but hopefully it will be worth it, as I will soon find out. Ooh, sick graffiti. I don't think I see a lot of graffiti in Taipei, if I'm being honest. That's pretty cool. That's a problem with shoving my face in all the videos. I really want to show you the sights as well, because Taipei is a very cool looking city. But okay, that's enough yapping from me. We've been walking for about 15 minutes from the train station. We are almost at the restaurant. Our reservation is at 6:30. It's still not quite 6 o'clock yet, so we're making a very good time. So I'm gonna shut up for now. I'm gonna catch a few more cool sights along the way, and I will see you when it's dinner time. I probably will not be able to film much inside the restaurant, so I'll probably like take silent videos or pictures and then talk about my experience afterwards with, pasting them on and such. If you've seen my Pung family video earlier in Mission Michelin, you know exactly what to expect. Okay, and now I'm shutting up. See you there. So it seems this sort of stretch of back alleys is a really good spot for restaurants in this general area, because I'm passing by quite a few. Guess it might be nice to come back some other time and try out a few places that are not Michelin exclusive. Like this right here, according to Google Maps, is another sushi place, and it's sort of tucked right into the corner here. So that definitely looks like it might be interesting as well. Another time, perhaps, because tonight we've got ourselves a date. Okay, took me a hot second to realize that this was the place, because the lights are currently off, as you can tell. But yeah, this is Nomura Sushi, and at about 6:30 the doors will open and I will be let inside. Let me give you a quick glimpse of the general area so you can tell how to find it yourself. I'd say the best landmarks to use are that temple over there and this other restaurant, which is called Woo Did. Let me get a closer look. Yeah, this looks like a Korean noodle restaurant or something. It also looks pretty fun. I should check it out sometime. But yeah, there's this, and then if you cross like 2 things down, this right here is Nomura Sushi. And we've still got about 20 minutes to kill, so I think I'm gonna pay that temple a little visit. Alright, sadly the temple is closed as well, so no getting inside. Oh well, guess there's nothing left to do but find a spot to wait, and I will see you most likely after the meal is done. Take care. Holy crap. Alright, so it's currently just before 9 o'clock. Dinner is finished. I am stuffed to the gills. Yeah, that was absolutely incredible. That was, oh my god. Alright, so here's the deal. I'm very exhausted right now. I would like to get back to my apartment and crash and sleep that delicious feast off. So I'm gonna do that, and then tomorrow morning I will catch up with you, and I will tell you all about the meal I just had. I am too food comaed to be making videos right now. I think that is apparent. I'm gonna get home, I'm gonna go sleep. See you in the morning. It was awesome. And it is the next morning, and I am still full, Jesus Christ. One thing I will say right off the bat, I know some Michelin places get a bad reputation for making you pay a lot for not a lot of food, so you have to like eat something else afterwards. That is not the case here. They give you bang for your buck, as expensive as it is. Now, at some point they did ask me to stop recording video in the restaurant, which, you know, it's fair, you know, respect them, respect their time, their privacy, all that. I will still show the clips I've already taken, but, you know, I'll take care that they're not too intrusive. And if Chef Nomura happens to find this video and asks me to take it down entirely, so be it. Anyways, Nomura Sushi.
god, what a restaurant. So it's a very small dining room. It's literally just one sushi counter that's like 10 seats total. And with how long dinner took, I'm not even sure they do a second seating. I think it's just max 10 people every night. But it's a beautiful place, you know, it's very cozy, a little austere as well. They've got their knives prominently displayed, as they should. Now, I had the earliest reservation at 6:30, so I was like the first one in the door as the restaurant opened. But as the night wore on, more and more people trickled in, and eventually we had like a very lively 9-person group attending, and they came from all over. There was someone from New York, there were people from Singapore, there were, I think, Taiwanese locals who also spoke a decent chunk of English. So we had a lot of really fun conversations throughout the night. You know, it was not you're lost in your own world eating. It was a very communal event, which I really liked. And of course, with it being a sushi bar, you are sitting right there while the chefs are preparing the food, you know, slicing the fish, arranging the plates, so you can have a nice look at everything. And as you might expect, it is really fun to watch because they are at the top of their game. I swear, I so rarely even heard noises from their knife work. They just sliced through everything so cleanly without even touching the cutting board. It didn't even make a ding or a clink. It was just silent. There was one point where I was able to watch them sort of debone an entire small fish, you know, take it out with tweezers, remove the entire spinal cord or whatever. It's just really cool stuff to see in action. Service was great too. The servers were all very attentive throughout the night. Most of them spoke just a little bit of English, so we were able to communicate all right. But that's enough dancing around the decor, the service, whatever. How is the experience itself? Well, first thing I want to say is that I was slightly mistaken about the menus. It's not one is sushi and then one is sushi and sashimi. They both have sushi and sashimi elements. They're essentially the same menu. The 10,000 NTD version just has a few extra dishes thrown in here and there. I could see a couple of those because other people that night ordered the 10,000 NTD menu, so, you know, I caught a couple glimpses of what I was missing. One thing I'm very sad I missed out on is otoro. Otoro, if you don't know, is the Japanese word for the fattiest part of the tuna belly. It is arguably the best sushi fish in the world, but it was not for the measly 8,000 NTD dollar menu. It's not for the peasants who can't cough up an extra 2,000 more. So that was sad. Luckily, what I did get was pretty darn great. Things started off with a nice heated towel to wipe my hands down, then came out the drinks. It was very cool how they did the water. I think they chilled the glass in either the fridge or even the freezer, so when you pour the water in, it stays cold in the glass. That was a very nice trick. After water, though, I switched to iced tea, which is, you know, very classic Asian green tea and matcha, but with ice in it. It's very refreshing to have throughout the evening, and, you know, they keep refilling it every time you run dry for no extra charge, so I was very happy about that. And now, at last, the feast begins. First dish was a cold fish appetizer. There were a few, like, little white fish, a piece of scallop, a piece of octopus, and some seasonal vegetables in a plum sauce. It was sort of like a ceviche, you know, everything was very raw and sort of marinated in the slightly acidic plum sauce. It was a nice little refreshing start to the meal. I didn't pick out all the vegetables they had. I'm pretty sure there was some white radish and some mushroom in there. A lot of it was pretty slimy as well, which sort of took me off balance at first. But I got used to it, you know, I did not hate the slime. Course number 2 was a plate of halibut sashimi. Now, I'll be honest, I have never cared for halibut. I find it one of the chewier fishes and not a lot of flavor to make up for it. So this was probably my least favorite thing of the night. But the wasabi was nice, and it came with a nice little plate of sea salt to dip it in as well. So that sort of compensated for a bit. What also helped is at this point they gave me a little complimentary cup of sake, which was very nice of them. I think sake has become one of my favorite spirits, Just the way it's served in those super cold cups, it really brings out the taste. Course number 3 was very interesting. It was a little pile of very small shrimps, and I mean like super tiny, like smaller than my pinky head right there, topped with a generous dollop of caviar and a bit of gold leaf. Because Michelin. It's interesting, the caviar was way less fishy than I expected. It was actually kind of meaty with the shrimp. Like, the whole dish almost ate like a plate of minced chicken. That's the sort of texture and, I guess, gamey profile that it gave off. I never knew shrimp could be so meaty like that, especially not shrimp that small. It was very interesting. Course number 4 was a little plate of octopus with a bit of, I think it was ponzu dipping sauce and a bit of spicy radish to mix in. Octopus can be pretty chewy, and this was too, but the ponzu sauce helped a lot. And the spicy radish was quite tasty too. I don't think I'd call it spicy, it's more just slightly tingly in the front of the lips, but it was nice. Also, don't mind as I stand up and walk around, my legs are starting to fall asleep. So at this point of the meal, I'm thinking, yeah, it's good, but I'm not sure if it's really great so far. Luckily, this is the moment where things really start picking up. Course 5 is a bowl of Korean soybean noodles with a little edamame, what I think is some minced up mushrooms, and a couple tiny whole squid. This instantly was unique in its flavor. The mushrooms were very umami and unctuous. The squid were actually kind of funky, possibly from the brains still inside them. It was just a very deep, rich flavor for such a small bowl of noodles, so instantly I was like, okay, the bar is raising. And the bar raised even further right afterwards with the next course, a bowl of baby eel soup. This was the funniest thing I've eaten in a long time. It's essentially a bowl of udon noodle soup, you know, that kind of unctuous beef broth, the little chopped up scallions, the little bits of fried whatever, you know, the fried cracklings scattered throughout. It's like exactly the kind of udon noodle soup you could get at any good Japanese place, except the noodles were replaced with tiny little baby eels. So every time you expect to bite into, you know, a thick, springy udon noodle, you instead have this very creamy, soft eel that literally melts in your mouth the second you put it in. I'm serious, I could not stop giggling as I was eating it. It was so interesting. So after a bit of a slow start, the meal was really starting to pick up. And just in time for the main event, the sushi. Now this place works like a traditional sushi bar. The chef makes the sushi behind the counter, and then he puts it directly on the counter for you to pick up with your hands and eat it just like that. There's no plates, there's no special sushi dishes, you don't even have to use chopsticks, you just pick it right off and eat it. Now don't worry if your hand gets messy, they bring out some wet wipes to help clean yourself, as well as some pickled vegetables to go along with it. Little known fact about me, I am a slut for Japanese pickled vegetables, so that was right up my alley. I was actually surprised, like I knew I was going to enjoy the pickled white radish, that's always amazing, but I was surprised by how much I enjoyed the pickled ginger as well. Like it had been brined enough that the majority of the intense ginger spiciness had been taken away. There was like just enough of it left not to be overpowering, but you could still taste like the briny acidic pickling liquid as well. I liked it so much I actually devoured the whole plate before the first piece of sushi even came up. That might have been a mistake. Not to worry though, they bring up a second round of that later in the meal, so you are all good. Anyways, as you might expect, the sushi itself was very delicious. The squid had just the right amount of bite. The snapper was honestly like a better version of the halibut with more flavor. I did not catch the name of the third piece. The chef had a little guide that he showed everybody, and I think it might have been flounder, which was very interesting. I guess it's sort of like a cross between the springiness of squid and the softness of other whitefish. It was very nice. And you know, he puts little bits of seasoning, I guess, or spices on a lot of the pieces. And of course that Nice little dollop of wasabi underneath the fish itself. Just very lovely little flavor explosions in every bite. Now at this point he starts interspersing pieces of sushi with other composed dishes. Next on the agenda was the fried dish, and what a dish it was. What I got was a whole deep sea, big-eyed fried fish on a little bowl of what I assume were either mashed potatoes or polenta. Or possibly grits, you know, that kind of creamy potato consistency, potato or corn, whatever. Point is, it was freaking delicious. I had no idea you could prepare, like, deep sea fish for eating like that, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised, they are still fish. It was so unctuous and meaty, and the creaminess of the grits really accentuated it. It was salty, fatty, umami, creamy. I was like scraping the bowl with my chopsticks to get up every last bite. It was incredible. After that, the next piece of sushi was snow crab, which I was very excited about. I have always loved crab. My grandparents used to hold this big crab fest every summer where we just get like buckets of crabs and rip them up on the table. So this brought back really good memories of that. It was just top tier stuff. Next sushi was trout, which I don't think I've ever had before, but it was really good. Sort of reminded me of salmon, you know, that kind of squishy, savory red meat fish. Evidently, I need to look more into trout, because that is another fish that has surprised me with how much I like it. Now, it's at this point they told me to stop taking videos, so from now on it's just gonna be pictures, but not to worry, it'll still sell most of the experience, I'm pretty sure. Next piece of sushi was toro, or tuna, and it was very good, very fatty, very rich, very toothsome. Again, I'm sad I missed out on the otoro, which came to the $10,000 diners next, but what can you do? What came next, I guess, would technically be the main course of the evening, you know, a whole piece of cooked fish. This fish actually does not have an English name. It's entirely local, I guess, to Taiwan or the surrounding waters. So I have no idea what it was. What I do know is that it was delicious. I'm used to white fish being kind of bland when I eat them, but this was packed full of flavor. It was flaky, it was salty, it was a little sweet, the skin was crispy and unctuous, and the cooking was so on point. Like, it was just barely on the verge of under in the center. You can see in this picture it's still got a little pink in there, but that I thought was perfect. It's like cooked right on the borderline of doneness, like right on the razor's edge, not leaning that way to over, not leaning that way to under. It's like just right here. The technical precision that must have taken is incredible. You know, I salute you. After that came more sushi, and the next piece was one of my favorites of the night, sardine. I've actually never had sardine before. I have no idea what it tasted like before now. If this is indicative of what sardine tastes like, I need to eat more sardine. It was so rich, so full of body. It almost tasted like I was eating beef. That's how much intensity it had in its meat. I don't know, I find I gravitate toward like strong, solid fish like that, and that was a very strong, very solid piece of fish. And then the pièce de résistance. Uni. Sea urchin or uni is one of the hardest bits of, I guess, fish or shellfish to get right, but when you do, it is some of the creamiest, briniest, sweetest, most unctuous seafood on the planet. And this bit of sushi was just a mound of the best uni I have ever tasted on rice. I could feel the flavor just coating my mouth and sticking there and sinking in like it was gonna become part of my DNA or something. That may well have been the single best bite I had all night. It was just incredible. After that came a bit of a palate cleanser with a little carafe of miso soup. Maybe a bit unnecessary, but I'll never say no to well done miso soup, and this was very well done. Next came our last piece of sushi of the night, and you know if it's their last piece, they want to go out on a high note. So, of course, now is the time to bring out the unagi, the barbecued Japanese eel. If you have never had unagi before, do yourself a favor and have unagi. It is so good. Something about the barbecue sauce that goes on a sushi eel really puts it over the top. It's like unctuous and mouth-watering, and it makes you salivate just thinking about it. And with the sushi done, we move on to the last portion of the meal, the cool down. First, though, the server came out to ask how full I was and said if I still had room, they could throw in one extra little dish for me. And I said yes. So I got a nice little sushi roll, the only sushi roll of the night. It was a very simple little roll, a bit of cucumber, a bit of shiso leaf. I didn't catch what the fish was, but I think it was salmon from the taste and texture, which is alright by me. I love salmon. Just a very nice little classic sushi roll. And that came alongside what I thought at first was a piece of like castella cake or pound cake. But then I bit into it and I was sort of shocked by the realization, no, this is tamagoyaki. Tamagoyaki, if you don't know, is a kind of Japanese rolled omelet where they layer the egg on top of itself, sheet after sheet after sheet, so it becomes this sort of layer cake of scrambled egg. It's usually sweet enough to serve as a dessert, but even by those standards, I was shocked by how cakey this tamagoyaki was. It genuinely was dense enough to be a baked good, yet it was still dripping with moisture. Like, you squeezed it and you could feel the juice start to dribble down your fingers. That's how moist it was. It really did feel like a cross between an egg and a baked good, and I'm not sure what wizardry they pulled to make that happen, but kudos. Now, at this point, I thought, surely we are done. Surely that's the end of it. But no, there was more! First, an extra little sashimi plate for me because it was my birthday. It was very nice. It was super ground up fish on a bed of rice and rolled up pieces of other fish. You know, I think there was some tuna in there. Plus a little extra caviar and gold leaf because why not? After that came one more piece of tamagoyaki. And then the final dessert. The meal closed out with a little bowl of hot tea next to a bowl of jellied fruits in like fruit jelly. It was bright, it was refreshing, the hot tea sort of warmed my soul after the marathon eating experience I'd just been through. And as the last bit of food fell down my esophagus, I leaned back in my chair, fully satisfied. And then the servers asked me if I was still hungry, just in case I wanted more sushi. I would have loved to say yes, but I was genuinely full to bursting at that point. I had no room left. So yeah, they absolutely make sure you have your fill at Nomura Sushi. Make no mistake of that. Overall, the time I spent dining was over 2 hours, maybe close to 2 hours, 10 minutes. You can linger a little longer if you want to keep up the conversation with the other guests. The staff was very attentive, but very patient. They didn't rush me along or anything. And once I was ready to go, I just walk outside the room, you pay at the cashier counter, and then you are on your way. Now, the total cost of the evening, between service charge and a little extra corkage fee for the water, was 8,932 NTD, which I'll put up the conversion for that here. I'm fairly certain that's like just about $300 US, so yeah. Now, because of the $2,000 deposit I already paid, I only paid like $7,000, the night of while I was there. So altogether, it was like close to 9,000 NTD. So now comes the most critical question. Was the meal worth that price point? And the answer is yes. Yes, it was. Obviously, this is nowhere close to an everyday sort of restaurant. This is not something you're going to be spending every weekend on. But as a one-time splurge, while the start might have been a little slow, it quickly climbed to a truly magical evening. Now, there are other Michelin-starred sushi restaurants in Taipei, so as I explore those, it might be fun to compare and contrast and see which one is truly the most worth it. But just for now, Nomura Sushi has set the bar very high. And that, folks, was my first time dining at a Michelin-starred restaurant. What an experience that was. As my Michelin moves forward, I will try to intersperse the honorable mentions bib category with the full-on Michelin starred restaurants, just to give some variety. And for my next starred restaurant, I think I will aim for one with not quite as ridiculous a price point. There are slightly more affordable options, ones closer to 4,000 NTD or 6,000 NTD. So we will hopefully not be breaking the bank too much. For now, though, I think it's time to bid this experience farewell and go on with the rest of my weekend. Once again, thank you for joining me at Taiwan Lao Wai. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, smash the bell, share with your friends, all that good stuff. And as always, I will see you next time. 再见. Bye bye!